Now, I fully get this movie's a crime movie, but I couldn't get over the sense that this just felt like a super long version of Criminal Minds, only with Morgan Freeman as one of the leads. The Ritual Killer. Now, this one was a very hit and miss movie for me, and I mean that kind of throughout the film. There was moments where it absolutely peaked and it was really fucking good and tense, and then there was moments where it was somewhat questionable, and I'll just walk you through these moments as they come. We open up on a high-stakes investigation going on against the Ritual Killer, as he'll come to be known. This introduction and the people investigating it are Interpol, because this shit is international. And this is clearly setting up a very menacing antagonist, because these crime scenes are fucking vicious. Then the title pops, and then we cut over to Detective Boyd. Detective Boyd is kind of like the gruff police officer. Like, he just wants to get the job done and his focus is on doing it right, but he's got a chip on his shoulder. And this comes to one of the misses with Detective Boyd. We keep flashing back to a backstory where his daughter and his wife, shit clearly went down and has led him to be the man he is now. We didn't need the flashbacks for this. Like, if he was just a gruff police officer and you took out all the flashbacks, nothing would have changed in this movie. Given how vicious these crimes are, we don't need the attachment to know that he also had a daughter. Because some of the victims are girls here, so that kind of plays on him. Sure, that works as an angle and adds another layer to him as a character. However, any normal person, even without children, walking onto this crime scene would be equally as affected as he is here. You know, he starts turning to drink and everybody in the department seems well okay with drinking.
Little Snoot, got some good whiskey here.
Yeah, I'll take a little Snoot.
Yeah. Almost to a worrying degree.
I need some of your brew.
Come on in.
Today we will be attempting to drink 100 beverages.
Everyone just seems a-okay with having a drink on the job. Now, based on that, if you just had to take a wild stab in the dark at how much of a shit Detective Boyd gives... Did you say zero? It's zero. He doesn't give a shit. He is here to fucking take care of people. And then we cut over to Morgan Freeman's character, Dr. Mackles. He is a professor on kind of African culture and African tribes, and that's going to play a huge part in the Ritual Killer. Because of the way these people are being killed, it is from these kind of African cultures, where it's something called Muti.
Muti has a dark side.
Which is all about positive force, you know? They even make a reference that if you, like, eat someone's eyes, you will get better vision. So it's these like grotesque, weird things that they have in place for medicine. Problem is, they believe it, so the murders are happening. And this is why they get Dr. Mackles as a consultant, because he can, you know, read the language, he understands what the culture is all about. And every so often in the movie, we cut from Detective Boyd back over to Interpol. They come together towards the end of the movie and they start really being in contact. But when we see one of the chases going on overseas, we get some wavering degrees of tension here, because it is set up as some big dramatic chase scene. However, you can't help but sit back and laugh. The guy's running down the stairs and he's attacking people the way Steven Seagal does. You know where they just stand and wait for it and then just take it whenever he hits them? Yeah, that's what happens here with like the overdramatic falls. And then right at the end, he picks up a gun, he's ready to shoot him and he's got sight on him. He doesn't take the shot, he jumps the fence first, because I don't know why he couldn't just poke it through the fence. And this guy is standing like the length of my living room away from him and he misses 3 fucking shots on him. Like, I get they're going for tension, but my fucking god, you need to make it a little bit more believable than this.
That's quite big.
Like, if this happens and this is why the killer gets away, I'm just going to come out and say it. He deserves to get away. Like, you need to up your game, Interpol, because so far I'm rooting for the killer here. Yous aren't doing your bit. We start seeing a few more of the bodies getting uncovered. As I said, some eyes are missing, some body parts are missing. And the detectives, they're not the brightest.
Somebody did a real number on her. Her hands, genitals, been removed.
You mean crabs get to her?
Sounds to me like she had a really bad case of the crabs. But in all seriousness, what the fuck are you talking about? How would a crab do that? As we progress from this, Detective Boyd is getting very invested in the case. One, his past life that you didn't need to know about, and also it's fucked up. Like, he needs to catch this killer, and he's also killing cops, so the stakes are very high. Again, this is one of the peaks of the movie. The tensity of the situation is never wavering. Like, you fully buy into how serious this matter is. The fact that it's not just kids, it's anyone of all ages, there's no demographics, they can't pin down why this person's killing the way he is, and who he's going to target next. Like, we have this young boy here, and even he gets taken. And look, his friend here, like, so I don't condone bullying. However, who made that decision? Whose choice was that? We actually take about half an hour for Boyd to come to Dr. Mackles because we're going between Interpol, the investigation, and all the backstory. And he comes in to meet Dr. Mackles for the first time with just so much aggression.
May I help you?
Well, I hope so. Are you Dr. Mackles?
Yes.
I'm Homicide Detective Lucas Boyd. You mind if I sit? So, you teach African studies, is that right?
If you're wanting someone to be on your side and help you, this is 101 how to not enter their room. Obviously and understandably, Dr. Mackles is reluctant to help. You can understand. This is fucked up, this case, and he wants to stay out of it. One, because of the African beliefs, and that's kind of where he's from. Also, he doesn't want a target on his back from the killer. So you can understand that he is not the easiest person to get onto your side. Doesn't help that you come in the door like that. I mean, you might as well have just fucking booted it down. Morgan Freeman as Dr. Mackles was fantastic to see. He's just got that wisdom in his voice with everything he says, so casting Morgan Freeman here was great. Morgan Freeman does everything he can with the role. I feel like a lot of the issues are maybe down to the writing more than anything else. Morgan Freeman, though, just killed it as Dr. Mackles. I could believe him as this old professor who knew fucking everything about African tribes and culture. But the movie does one of those things, and again, this is one of those dips for me, where they start a conversation and then the conversation ends somewhere else entirely. Look at this.
In a metaphysical sense, it can be tied to what can be referred to as gives them an edge. In Muti.
Like, how do you start the conversation there and then the next sentence is at the bar? It doesn't quite add up. It would be one thing if it started as a voiceover, but it doesn't. You can see them start and see them end the same fucking paragraph. That is one of the few things that just really annoy me in a movie. It might annoy you too. I can't unsee that anytime it comes up in a movie. So coming into the specifics of this, Boyd is a really good as a gruff police officer. Backstory or not, you buy it 100%. And coming at this from two angles, as the kind of crime movie goes, the kind of criminal minds, CSI aspect of it, it feels like you're just following a lot of the familiar beats that these shows put out just now in a movie. I mean, there's so many of these shows for a reason. Those beats work. However, as a film, you need to give us a little bit more than that. And that is what they tried to do with the ritual killer, having him kill in a very specific way. You know, it's all about power. It turns out that he's not doing it for himself, he's got clients. People are paying him for these parts they'll then consume and get the powers from them. You know, his clients are doing it for power, money, things like that. All the evil capitalist things you can imagine in the world. You know, as I said, you eat the eyes, you get better vision. You eat part of the brain, you get more intelligence and knowledge. That's the kind of level that we're talking here. And the movie's another one that does that thing where it ends, and it's a very clear ending for the movie. Everything's wrapped up nice and neat. Well, kind of. It leaves a little bit ambiguous, but that's fine. And then it goes on just 5 minutes more than it has to, and now you're wondering what the fuck is going on. So I'll cover that here. If you really don't want to see what I'm talking about, jump onto this point. Otherwise, thank you for sticking around. Dr. Mackles is involved in the ritual killing and he gets away. Detective Boyd isn't quite too happy with this, but he comes home to a package one day, and it turns out that Mackles has sent him eyes to eat. Boyd is clearly lost everything in his life, he is at the end of his tether, he eats the eyes to get this power. That wouldn't be a problem if the movie hadn't already established that the purpose of that is to get better sight, and at no point does Boyd indicate that he can't see very well. So if you're going to have him eat a body part, why the fuck did you make it the eyes? I understand why from the movie perspective, because it is grotesque. You know, you don't need as much setup with the eye, because you know what the fuck that is, so it's gross immediately. But then don't have the rule in the movie earlier that part of Muti culture is that it's going to give them better vision. You've got to pick your battles, pick one or the other, even have a lump of meat and put a little bit of message as to what it is, or don't tell him that it's going to make his eyes better. The guy can already see perfectly fine. He's got a better shot than him anyway. So look, with all that being said, where are we putting The Ritual Killer? See if you enjoy your crime action thrillers. If you have nothing else to watch, you could put this one on. The performances are all good. There is an unnecessary amount of backstory given towards Boyd, which you could cut out the movie. Nothing would change. It is hit and miss, as I said, given the quality kind of fluctuates in the movie. When it's getting into the killings and we're seeing a lot of the tension between the main antagonist and also the police, that was fucking good. But then you get to a few of the fight scenes, you get to a bit of the dialogue, you get taken back from the movie. The movie throughout the whole runtime is coming and going with your investment. And one thing I did pick up on, which I feel like it would have been a better end to this movie. I understand why it may not work on a one-to-one basis, but a little bit of a rewrite, you can make it happen. When we first see Dr. Mackles, he's taking a lecture and he's talking about tribes, and one of the kids speaks up and he gives him a task to go away, look up online a tribe that he would not want here in the Western world. One that would not fit into society and one that would be absolutely shunned.
I want you to take that phone in your pocket and find me a culture that is so inverse to your own that the idea of it taking root here in this city would scare the bejesus out of you.
Nothing comes from that. You know, it would have been interesting to see if that is how they wrap up the movie. Call back to this kid, call back to the question you asked him, to bring it in, and maybe he talks about the Muti. Maybe he talks about the culture that we're discussing for the entire fucking movie. But no, instead the movie ended the way it did, as I mentioned. It's one that I feel like they could have made it great if they just reread their own fucking script. Or this should have been handed off for the next episode of CSI. One of the two, but it just unfortunately didn't quite work here. So like, with all that being said, have you seen The Ritual Killer? Let me know down below if we agree or disagree. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. It'll keep you up to date with all these latest movies I'm talking about, and you're going to make my day. But with all that now covered, as always, thank you so much for watching.